Welcome to the Nightly Rant
with
your hosts, Mike
and Torya.
This is the show where we examine society from a sarcastic point of view.
If you like insane conversations, this is definitely the show for you.
Let's get into today's topic. YPN people, I don't know about you, but I love helping out a friend. That's why I want to shout out my friend Brian Little and his podcast, Your Favorite Blockhead. This is the only show that manages to weave together peanuts and MMA into one heck of an amazing podcast. You can find Your Favorite Blockhead wherever your favorite podcasts reside and at yourfavoriteblockhead.com. Do me a huge favor and listen to Brian's show. You'll be entertained and you'll help out a friend. Now, as I said, let's get into today's topic. So, it's been a busy, hella busy few weeks.
Yeah, no joke. It's been unreasonable.
I think I can start to see why entrepreneurs don't take long vacations. They just take a weekend getaway here and a weekend getaway there.
It causes too much.
It causes such a backlog of work that you just don't catch back up.
We're almost there.
Well, and the problem is trying to keep up with the current workload while catching up the past due workload. And then for me, taking on a new role within the company that I was doing, then not doing, and now back to doing, and having to change things that I don't like and resist change on things that are mediocre, but maybe I'll change one day, but resist it right now because you don't want to rock the boat too much. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It just gets really frustrating in the long run to be dealing with all this stuff at the exact same time. But with that said, you have prepared another, drum roll please, Am I the Asshole?
Indeed.
From Reddit.
Alrighty.
Now I get to interject when I want to.
Sure, just wait till the end of
And
it.
everyone should know that I have heard the title of this, but I have not heard anything of the details. I have not read it. Haha, that's kind of funny. I have not read it since it's on Reddit. But I have not read it, and I don't know anything about the details. So I'm going to be reacting just like you for the first time hearing it. Let's go. Fire away.
All right. So I, female 32, have been married to my husband, male 34, for 6 years. Before we got married, he had me sign a prenup stating that our financials would always be separate and the only thing we would share was an expense account to pay for the household-related fees. The reason for this was because he was making pretty good money and I was in graduate school, so my financial situation was pretty bad, but I signed nonetheless because I understood he wanted to protect himself. Anyway, fast forward to now, I've been out of school for about 4 years and I make more than 3 times as much as he does. I never asked how much he makes and he's never asked me either.
Good for her.
Right? Champion.
But if she's never asked and he's never asked, how on God's green earth does she know she makes 3 times what he makes?
She's probably knows average from what bills
Not what the story says. I'm starting to call bullshit on this story. It may be a fake. Am I the asshole?
Anyway, 2 weeks ago, I told him that I was thinking about buying a car, as the one I had was really, really old since I'd had it since my undergraduate days. He wasn't really interested and told me to just get whatever I liked. So a week ago, I decided to take the plunge, and I got an Audi. I was pretty excited, as I had always wanted one. At the time, my husband was on a business trip. He got back yesterday, and I showed him my car. He was really happy for me. However, later he asked me what my monthly payments were, as the Audi was pretty new. At this point, I told him I had made the purchase in cash and that I had no monthly payments. He was taken aback and asked with what money, and I answered that I made more than enough money to be able to afford it. He didn't talk after that, and I thought that was that. However, after a few hours, he came back to me and told me he thinks we should void the prenup. This is where I might be the asshole. I laughed in his face and asked him why I would agree to that, and his answer was that we're married and should share our financials. So I told him that we've been married for 6 years, and yet we've never shared financials, and I was fine with what we were doing. And his sudden change of heart was very suspicious. He called me a bunch of names and stormed out and didn't come home, and I guess he told his family about our fight, and they called to berate me and say how he supported me while I was in school. He didn't. And now I'm wondering if I was the asshole.
Why you give me such an easy one? This one is so easy.
Who's the asshole?
The husband's the asshole all the way 100%. He's probably more than 100% an asshole. If it was possible to be more than 100% the asshole, he would be more than the 100% the asshole.
First off,
what a dick.
You're not pro prenup. You probably think that going all the way back to that is asshole. You know?
Yeah, but I think people get to do what people want to do.
Right.
Just don't try to include me in it.
But voiding the prenup because he found out she makes more money? Really?
Well, it's not that. I get it. He wants to make the play for the money. I get it. It's not that bothers me. It's the way he did it that bothers me. How he's like, well, we're married. Why should our finances should be together? We didn't think that when we got married. That's why you had us do a prenup.
Right.
And the reason you didn't think that way was you never fathomed that your wife, who at the time was, quote, just a graduate student, end quote, would ever amount to anything. Let's be real. It reveals so much about how he thinks, too. That shows he's an even bigger asshole. Because the reality is she's probably some hot chick. Probably is. That one of those goes to yoga class like 17 times a day and has like the perfect figure, you know. And so she's a trophy wife. So he's not letting that go. But the reality is
he's a trophy husband now.
He doesn't give a crap about her because all he cares about is he thought he was going to make more money than her. And now he's shocked that she's making more money. So what does he want? He wants equity. I love that word. It's flowing around everywhere today. Equity. But the people who use the word equity, they don't fucking know what the word equity actually means.
I mean, if she's not splitting the bills evenly with him, if he was still paying more of any of that stuff, I could understand his annoyance. Because when she was in graduate school, probably not making any money, he was probably covering slightly more of the things. I could understand being annoyed, but he's still an asshole for the way he went about it. Yeah.
So here's the thing. We're never going to agree on this part because it's a lot like the discussion we had the other day about how people can't make you feel a certain way. I do not believe that that situation can be changed. It is what it is. There's no way you could have done something different.
He's an asshole regardless.
Well,
why
that's
would
the
we be
thing.
disagreeing
He's
on
a
this?
giant. Well, because I think that in his case, it just reveals so much about like the lies that he's told her about how he feels about her. He just wanted her on his arm. That's all. And nobody in it, and nothing in that agreement says that they have to pay more than 50-50. Nothing in the agreement says they're allowed to pay less than 50-50. So if he chose to pay more than 50% while she was in school, that's on him. He gets to say yes or no to that because there's a written agreement. You can't argue with that.
No, the only thing I would give him is
more.
that maybe now he would want to revisit that agreement. That part now we're paying 50-50.
Yeah, that part, his extended part of the agreement.
But he can't
demand more than 50-50. He can't demand that they void the agreement. All of those things are dick moves. And you shouldn't be a dick, especially to somebody who you claim to love and care about. You know, if she decided, you know, he never really expected me to make this much money, and it would be much better if we were together because he spends his money like a crazy person, and I could control that better if we were in one bank account. I can see the logic to that, to keep the relationship alive long term.
They didn't have a conversation
but he still has to agree to that.
He just birthed a cow at her because she bought a car.
They still have to agree to that. Well, what he didn't like was how much she's paying for the car because he feels like that makes her, quote, rich.
You know,
and I don't think it matters if she's rich or not.
I don't understand a couple who has no conversations about money or finances at all.
Ever.
I mean, okay, I respect their right and reasoning behind having an agreement in the beginning, whatever. Whatever floats their boat. It's their life.
Well, and she signed it too.
But to not have any conversations about it ever again, she finished graduate school and started an effing job, and they never had a conversation about how much money she was making?
And she never had a conversation with him about how much money he was making.
Right.
Why?
I don't get it.
I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I mean, I think you could write an agreement that would slide adjust based on income disparity. Party that has lower than 50,000 behind the other person gets this much money, percentage wise. You know, you could write an agreement that
It doesn't sound like they did.
covers that, but they didn't. No, that's the point. But the point is, they both agreed to the agreement. So I'm with her. Like,
If she's not.
you want me to change the agreement now? The agreement that you wanted? Like, I signed this agreement when it didn't benefit me at all. You were fully
Probably hurt
benefited.
her a lot.
You were fully benefited. I had to struggle because of that stupid agreement. And now you want, because I make more money than you want me to break the agreement? Go fuck yourself.
Yep.
Like, seriously. You just really stuck a knife in our relationship when you do that.
Yeah, it's going to be the pickaxe that made the crack.
I could go on and on about what an asshole he is. But I mean, as the woman, I'd walk away anyway, regardless, because to my way of thinking, roles reversed. Let's say that happened with you.
Okay.
It proves to me you don't really care about me. Because if you cared about me, you wouldn't treat me like that. And you wouldn't
Right.
laugh at this and that and the other thing. You'd try to keep me from having those problems. You wouldn't push me towards them
Right.
and then get a kick out of the fact that I hit them. You know, and that's the thing. Once you see someone kind of rooting for your demise, how can you ever trust that person ever again?
Right.
They were rooting for you to get hurt. Sorry. I don't care what you say to me. Mistake. I didn't know what I was doing. Hey, you did it. And that shows me you're capable of doing it. So sorry. Can't deal anymore. Like that's just common sense. Wow. The AI things are driving me crazy these days. And I'm not saying
chatting back.
Yeah, it's chatting back and it's like turning on music just because somebody on YouTube says something and all of a sudden it turns on music and I'm like, turn off the music. It makes it louder. Then I tell it, hey, cancel the music. Finally, I tell it to shut off Spotify because I remembered that's what it said it turned on. And then it worked.
All I hear from my office is like really loud music and hollering at the
Yeah,
G.
me yelling at it.
the G.
Yeah, at the G. The G'll.
The G needs a punch in the nose.
Sometimes. It
Recently-
doesn't have a nose, though.
Recently, the TV has been setting off the Hey G a lot.
You know, it's interesting. We had a discussion about how this thing was kind of an a-hole. Once
a big
before.
a-hole.
I can't remember which episode, but it's within the last 50 episodes somewhere.
I mean, I could ask you right now if it's an a-hole.
Don't. Anyway, we had this discussion about how nasty it was and, you know, that kind of stuff. It had no sense of humor and how the Alexa one
I like
has
to swear
a
at it.
better sense of humor.
Siri's the champion.
Siri's the funniest one, though. Siri has a response for almost everything. It's brilliant. I don't know what Apple does specifically to make that happen. I've heard rumors. They seem a little far-fetched, but, you know.
They have a whole team of dinguses sitting there writing sass.
Yeah, and then they listen to what questions people ask, and they come up with sassy answers to the questions that they didn't have answers for.
Siri's always been funny.
Well, at first Siri didn't work at all. Like, Siri was terrible. The first version of Siri,
The first iPhone I got was a 5.
it was more painful
Sorry.
than typing.
Didn't Siri come out in the 4S? Isn't that why
Yes.
it's called the 4S?
Yeah.
So I got a version later than Siri came out.
Yeah.
Was my first iPhone.
Yeah, and by then it was improved a lot.
Yeah.
But the first Siri, like, it crashed people's phones.
Haha.
You'd tell it to, like, look up Pizza Hut, and it would call Pizza Hut, and you're like, I
Excuse
didn't say I wanted that. You know, like, it would do all sorts of screwed up things. But I think it's interesting because I also think we had a Am I the Asshole in the same episode as we talked about the G thing. And
That's funny.
And the G thing has been annoying since we've been back from Australia. It has
mad at
been
us, I think.
super annoying. You know what? It tells me that other router we had was defective from the beginning because you've always complained about the dropout. I've never had a problem with it because I have a direct line of sight. You guys don't. And you've always complained about it. But the thing that was always wonky was this guy.
Oh.
Well, since we've switched it, this guy's like, unfortunately, crystal clear thinking. Like it
He's a
knows what
champion.
it knows what it wants. And you guys haven't complained about connections being a problem.
Just the one day where I had to unplug the one in
Yeah, but
my office.
that's that box back there. It
Yeah.
just did its thing, you know. But I think it's amazing that maybe it was just effective to begin with, and now we've cleaned it up because this thing, the G thing, it's been like clear-minded. It's got clarity. It knows what it wants. That focus and drive and energy, that thing, because of the new router.
All right, man. He's praising Hey G way too much.
I love Hey G. I love it.
I think it's time.
I wish it could play chess.
I think it's time to
No,
go to
not
bed
yet. I'm not ready yet.
before it gets an ego and really starts messing with us.
Well, it doesn't even hear what we're saying because it doesn't know that its name is G.
It hears everything.
But it doesn't
Don't
know
you
that
listen
its
to
name is G.
Russell?
Oh, yeah, okay.
If I brought a Hey G into his house, he would
would
go
hey kick
find
you
the
hey
clip
out.
for that rifle.
He would hey kick you hey out.
And he would take care of the Hey G.
Along with the Hey G.
Yeah.
Anyway, fine. You're tired. I'm not. But that's okay because we're a team.
Awesome. Good night, everyone.
Hasta la bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Nightly Rant.
If you enjoyed the show, please give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Google Play.
If you didn't enjoy the show, please just ignore that previous request for a rating.
This has been a Yogi's Podcast Network production.